بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and passing salutation upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it's the first new start at 8 o'clock. Usually we have the students are not really awake for the time, not really aware of the time. We will just tell you from the last thing that we have discussed, which was the thing that we have learned from the trip of the Prophet of Allah into the Isra wal Mi'raj, the ascension and the night journey. And from that trip we have learned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made the heart of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be calm, and He made him as well with looking forward to call for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the Messenger of Allah did not spare any opportunity except that he would call the people to the sake of Allah. We have, for example, Eyas bin Mu'adh saying, and he is a witness for that. He said, "Verily, I've seen the Prophet ﷺ in the market of Dhul Majaz. He was following the people to the houses, calling for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And there was a man behind him with a crossed eye, and he was telling the people and warning them, "Oh people, don't be deceived by this person, not to take you away from your religion or the religion of your fathers. For verily, when he was asked who was he, they said, he's Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet of Allah." And from those da'wah, within this da'wah that the people would, the Prophet of Allah used to call the people to, is Ya ayyuhan nas qulu la ilaha illallah. O people, say there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone. Tuflihu, you will be successful. And the people used to surround the Prophet of Allah. Just like when the da'wah takes place, and I have seen it with my own eyes, mashallah, in Hyde Park Corner, Speaker's Corner, Hyde Park. And I've seen that when the people calling for the Islam, it's the only circle which really grows a lot. Lots of people are paying attention. Whereas other people, I call them just like clowns, coming for nothing. You'll find about 5, 6, 7 people passing by just for the sake of tourism, and they leave. But the ones who are calling for the sake of Allah are serious, and their circle gets really, mashallah, a lot. And that's how it was at the time of the Prophet of Allah. Whenever he used to call the people for La ilaha illallah, they would just surround him and listen to him, and they would not say anything. And he would call them, and he would never spare a moment until he calls them. But Abu Lahab used to shout, "Verily he's Allah, verily he's a kafir, sabr," a disbeliever in the highway, of course. And he wants you to abandon your gods and the gods of your forefathers, and he wants you to abandon Allat wal Uzza. And it happened, and this is I'm saying something which is not in the book. And it happened that while he was doing that, he was calling the people, who's going to take me to his own tribe, so I'd call for the sake of Allah. For verily the people of Quraysh had prevented me from conveying the words of my Lord, Allah Azza wa Jal. A man from Hamadan is a tribe from Yemen. And he said to him, "Who are you?" The Prophet of Allah asked him. So the man, he said, "I am from Hamadan." So he said, "Do your people or your tribe have power in order to protect me when I call for the sake of Allah?" Who is sitting in the middle here? Nobody. Brother, fill up the gaps. Who? So he said, "Do you have power in the tribe?" He said, "Yes." For verily, the man, he said yes, but then later on he was scared that his tribe will not be powerful enough to protect the Prophet. So he came to the Messenger of Allah. He said, "Messenger of Allah, I will go there and I'll tell my tribe, and then I will come to you in the following year. If I find power, then I'll go ahead." So he left, and after just about he left, the delegates from the Ansar, they came in the month of Rajab, and this is authentic, in the same year. And this is to tell you that this incident that took place, that is between Prophet of Allah and the man from Hamadan from Yemen, it took place in the year 11 after Hijrah, because this is when the time of the Ansar, the Al-Khazraj, they came from Medina to the Prophet of Allah in the 11th after Hijrah. So this is just to give you an introduction of what's going to take place. As we have said, the Prophet of Allah was calling to the sake of Allah in the times of Hajj, the times of the Umrah, when the people mix Hajj, and the Hajj started from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he says, verily the Prophet ﷺ was calling to the sake of Allah for 10 years. And say it again. Excellent. So he was following the people in their houses, in Aqabah, Jannah, Dhul Majaz, all of them, and even in the occasions of Hajj, in Mina. And he would say, who's going to protect me? Who's going to give me power for the sake of calling, for the sake of Allah? And he will have paradise. So he promised those who would give him protection that Allah will give them paradise. A man, he would come from the Yemen, a man comes from the tribe of Mudar, and he would come with his people, and the people, they will tell that person, if he comes to meet the Prophet ﷺ, be aware of this boy of Quraysh, meaning the Prophet of Allah, not to let you deceive you and trick you into his following his religion. So while the Prophet of Allah is walking in between those tribes or those people who had come to make up Hajj or Umrah, they were the people point their fingers towards the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning this is the man who had been warned against. And Allah Azza wa Jal had put the heart, or put the Iman into the heart of those who had come from the Medina. And the ones who had come from the Medina are from Khazraj. And Medina has got two tribes, mainly the Aus and the Khazraj. And the Aus and the Khazraj, they had a fight amongst them. And that fight just broke about 3 years just before they met the Prophet of Allah. And the Aus, because they were less in number than the Khazraj, so the Khazraj, they went to, the Aus, because that's in the Khazraj, the Aus went to get the help from the tribe of Quraysh against the Khazraj. But actually what happened is that the Jews had allied themselves with one of them, with the Aus, and that is why they said to the Khazraj, we're gonna have a prophet coming, and as soon as the prophet gonna come, he's gonna fight along with us, we're gonna wipe you out. So they have heard already from the Jews there's a prophet coming, so they are already knowing that there's something's gonna happen. And this is maybe why the reason the Khazraj, as soon as they went there and they saw that this person, which is the Prophet ﷺ, calling for the sake of Allah, and he's claiming to be a prophet, he said, maybe this is the one that the Jews told us about. And let's just give him a pledge before the Jews give him the pledge, and then we'll be the ones who would make an allegiance with him, or to cooperate with him and give him our pledge before the Jews, they do so. So it was actually, all of these incidents took place in order for the Islam state to be established. So the Prophet ﷺ would recite the Quran for those people. The person would go to his own tribe, and then he would recite the same Quran to his people, and then they will become a Muslim because they became a Muslim. And that's how the Islam entered into the houses and the tribes of the Yemenis, and the people of the Ansar, and of the Medina, and this is how there was the start. Right, so we're going to be talking about number of incidents, and those incidents, some of them to be authentic, some of them are to be unauthentic, some of them authentic but they're not related to the time of that. And this is what we're going to be reciting inshallah 8 o'clock. Now, yeah.
Chapter 12. 6 pilgrims from Yathrib.
Now.
Seeds of faith sprout outside Makkah. Although the vast majority of Meccan pagans rejected the Prophet ﷺ, a few people outside Makkah embraced Islam. Some of them are mentioned below. Suwayd bin Samit.
Suwayd bin Samit, right. He was a poet. Now,
a poet from Yathrib, the modern-day Medina, Suwayd came to Makkah to perform pilgrimage.
So he is from the Medina. He is from the Ansar. Now,
when the Prophet ﷺ invited him to Islam, Suwayd recited some of his own verses to the Prophet ﷺ. In response, the Prophet ﷺ recited some verses from the Quran, declaring, "I have never heard such noble words." Suwayd embraced Islam. He was killed in the fighting between Aus and Khazraj.
On the day of Mu'adh. Right, on the day of Mu'adh. On the day of Mu'adh, yes, the day of the battle of Mu'adh. Okay, this is just translation of what is being missing. The story was really fascinating. That this is Suwayd bin Samit, and as soon as he wanted to make Hajj or Umrah, we're not sure, Prophet ﷺ came to him and he called him to Islam. So Suwayd, he said, "You are maybe whatever you've got is the same thing what I've got." So the Prophet ﷺ said, "What have you got?" He said, "I've got something from Luqman," means the wisdom. He got the wisdom from Luqman. Must have heard it from the Jews. Hikmat Luqman. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Okay, go on, recite it to me." So he recited it to him. So he said to him, "Verily, these words are good." Hikmat Luqman were very good. But what I've got is better. What I've got is better. So Quran. What I've got is better. Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent it down upon me. And it is a guidance and it's light. So the Prophet ﷺ started to recite the Quran upon him. And then he called him to Islam. And then the man, which is Suwayd bin Samit, he said, "Verily, whatever you have just said is good." Then he left to the Medina, and as soon as he went to Medina, he was killed by the Khazraj. And you see, the people used to say, "Verily, that this man, we could see him that he had died as a Muslim." And this death was on the day of Mu'adh. Now, we have no proof whatsoever to say that this person had called his people to Islam. We know that he had listened to the Prophet ﷺ. We know that as well, that he had said that those words are right, mashallah, good. If he embraced Islam, he did not call his people to Islam. That's the first person. You see, as I said, just before the day that the Mu'adh took place, Mu'adh, which is the day of battle between Aus and Khazraj. What time is it? 35? 25, 1 minute left. Al-Aus, they wanted to ally themselves with the people of Quraysh against the Khazraj, because the Khazraj were there more in number than them. And this is where the second story is going to take place, which is the story of, go ahead.
Eyas bin Mu'adh.
Eyas bin Mu'adh. Right, Eyas bin Mu'adh, we'll discuss him after the other. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Eyas bin Mu'adh is the person we're going to be discussing his story in embracing Islam, and he is from the people of Al-Madinah. Now,
Eyas bin Mu'adh, he was also from Yathrib and came to Makkah in the 11th year of the Prophet ﷺ's mission. He was a deputy from the tribe of Aus and came to Makkah seeking assistance against the rival Khazraj tribe. The Prophet ﷺ invited Eyas to Islam and recited some Quranic verses for him. When Eyas heard the Prophet ﷺ recite, he told the other delegation members, "By God, this is better than what we have come here for." His fellow tribesmen, Abul Husayr, threw pebbles in Eyas's face and snapped, "Leave it, we have come here with a different purpose."
Abul Haysar. Abul Haysar. Now,
the chastened Eyas fell silent. Upon his return to Yathrib, Eyas fell seriously ill. His praise and glorification of Allah just before he died left little doubt about his conversion to Islam.
So before he died, he just glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was saying tasbih and takbir and tahleel. So they didn't have any doubt that this person died upon Islam. But we say as well, him and the one before him, Suwayd bin Samit, did not have any call to Islam So they don't have any proof that they have called to Islam, but we have strong indications that they have embraced Islam, because they said we have no doubt, because of his tasbih, al-takbir, al-tahleel. But this is not actually you could say, the strength of the da'wah that started. It's only when those 6 people have met the Prophet of Allah in the following year, which is the year just preceding the first pledge. Now, Abu Dhar Ghifari. Now, Abu Dhar Ghifari's story is authentic, but we've discussed it before, if you remember. And it is not actually date-wise to be in the incident just after the Isra wal Mi'raj. We have strong hint that it is actually before the Isra wal Mi'raj. So that is why we've discussed that story. Yes? Did we narrate it in this book? Or from me? Just from me, isn't it? Yeah, can you just read it from the book?
Abu Dhar Ghifari radiallahu anhu. He had heard about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam through Suwayd bin Samit and Eyas bin Mu'adh, and was interested in knowing more. He sent his brother to Makkah to find out more about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's character, but upon his brother's return from Makkah, Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu was not satisfied with his brother's account of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message. Accordingly, he decided to go to Makkah himself. Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu reached Makkah, but fearing for his life, he did not ask about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At last, Ali radiallahu anhu took him to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who then described the tenets of Islam to him. Convinced at what he heard, Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu became Muslim. His heart was now full of courage and faith. Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu went to the Aqabah and announced that he had embraced Islam. The Quraysh responded by beating him, and only the intervention of Abbas radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's uncle, saved him from being killed. The next day, Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu repeated his announcement at the Aqabah, and once again, Abbas radiallahu anhu had to rescue him from the Quraysh. Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu then returned to his tribe, Banu Ghifar, and left them only when he migrated to Medina with other Muslims.
This is the one version of the story of Abu Dhar. And you remember that he had drank water of Zamzam. And this is the second story that we have, second incident. If you remember, what happened? Yes. And then, what did happen? How did he meet the Prophet? This is through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Yes? But there's another one. It's Ali ibn Abi Talib. There's another one. Because this is, you see, he had lumped 2 stories in one. But the incident of Ali ibn Abi Talib, there was no Zamzam in it. The Zamzam water came with something else. Huh? Abu Bakr, yes, both of them, they were there. And what happened? What did he do? That's very good. MashaAllah. Leaf all the time, MashaAllah. There was 2 women, if you remember. The women in Tawaf, there was Isaf and Na'ila. Isaf and Na'ila is 2 gods. They taken my god. There's a woman and a male and a female. They met each other in the haram, and they committed a'udhu billah, the haram, and Allah turned them into stones. That's what the story behind it. And these people took them as well, as a reminder, as a gods. So they started, rotating around, and he said a word, which is a really rude word, about his private part, if you remember. And then yeah, I'm not going to say because the kids here. And then the women, they were really so shocked with the word. So they left and they met the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr, if you remember. And they said, what's happening? He said, well, there's a man there. If we had some people of Quraysh, we would send them to beat him up. What happened? He said a word. We said, what word? He said, a word that fills up the mouth. A word that fills up the mouth. They can't say it. So when they met him, and he said, you are the Prophet. And then he asked them about how many nights you've been there. And he said, 30 nights. On what you've been living? On Zamzam water. Prophet, he said, طَعَامُ طُعْمٍ وَشِفَاءُ سُقْمٍ. It is the food for the person who wants food, and a cure for the person who wants cure. And he said, I had drank water until my water تَكَسَّرَتْ عُطَمُ. His stomach was sound. His stomach is really filled up with it. Really filled up. And he had no worries whatsoever. But as I said, the story we don't know if it is after the Isra wal Mi'raj. We have tendency to say it's before. Number 4 story, which is Tufayl bin Amr Dausi. Now this story as well, some of the people, they think the story of that story, which is in the book of the Sirah, is to be authentic. It is authentic, but it has no chain. So it has no chain. So you can't say it's authentic. It's not. Now, Tufayl, and so it is now. What we're going to read is not authentic. Go ahead.
Tufayl bin Amr Dausi, radiallahu anhu. He was a prominent poet and a chief of the Daws tribe that lived on the outskirts of Yemen. 11 years after the Prophet ﷺ began his mission, Tufayl visited Mecca only to be warned by the Quraysh about the danger of Muhammad ﷺ's bewitching words. Tufayl went to the Kaaba with cotton stuffed in his ears as a precaution against the Prophet ﷺ's preaching.
Remember, this is unauthentic. I'm just reading it for the sake of, if you have any information before to delete it. Go ahead.
He arrived at the Kaaba to find the Prophet ﷺ performing his prayers nearby. Overcome by curiosity, Tufayl decided to listen to Muhammad ﷺ's recitation. I am a poet with a trained ear. I can determine if what Muhammad ﷺ says is true or false. Only if his words are good shall I accept what he says. He was amazed by the Prophet ﷺ's recitation. Tufayl then followed the Prophet ﷺ home and asked him to explain Islam to him. After the Prophet ﷺ did so, Tufayl embraced Islam. He then told the Prophet ﷺ that his people trusted him and would listen to what he had to say, and that he would invite them to Islam. He asked the Prophet ﷺ to give him a sign by which the people would recognize the truth of his words. The Prophet ﷺ prayed to Allah to give him such a sign, and when Tufayl went back to his people, his face was radiant. His people...
That's why we say that you don't have to have the authenticity for that. We don't. Now, it's like a fairy tale story, basically. Go ahead.
His people were reluctant to accept Islam, but his father and wife readily became Muslim. By the time he migrated to Medina, however, 70 or 80 families from his tribe had accepted Islam, and they accompanied him on that journey to Medina.
That the light transferred into his whip?
No.
Anybody heard about this story before?
No.
Oh, good. No, the light transferred into his whip. Huh? You heard it before. Jazakallah khair. At least somebody would have. Delete. Right, we know that Tufayl bin Amr Dausi, he's one of those people who we call him Ahnaf, like Abu Dhar. And who else? Give me a name. Yalla. Huh? Zayd bin Amr, yes. What else? MashaAllah. Waraq bin Nawfal, what else? You could say Salman al-Farsi. Very good. Who else as well before? Bahira? Bahira Allah, MashaAllah. Very good. All of those, they did not worship except for something which is monotheism, Ahnaf. Right, this person, he was to be Tufayl bin Amr Dausi, a person who was a chief in his tribe called a Daws. That's the authentic. And he was to be followed. They used to listen to his words. When the people of Quraysh saw him, they told him about the Messenger of Allah, and they said to him, be careful of this person. And they had prohibited him, and they told him off not to gather himself with the Prophet of Allah, or to listen to his words. So when Tufayl and his companions came to the Prophet ﷺ, straight away he embraces Islam. Straight away. And then he said, Messenger of Allah, Inna Dawsan qad istasat. Very Messenger of Allah, Daws, which I am a chief to be followed, they did not listen to my words. And they refused to embrace Islam. So call Allah against them. So the Prophet ﷺ turned towards the Qibla, and this is from the etiquettes, if you want to make a dua, raised up his hands, and the people said, well, they've gone, they've had it. And as soon as he put his hands down, the Prophet of Allah facing the Qibla, then these people are going to be what? Demolished. So the Prophet ﷺ said, oh Allah, guide those. This is the supplication which is against them. Allahumma hadi dawsa. وَإِيتِي بِهِمْ اللَّهُمَّ الدَّوْسَ وَإِيتِي بِهِمْ. Oh Allah, twice he said, guide the tribe of Daws and bring them, that means to Islam, and bring them, وَإِيتِي بِهِمْ اللَّهُمَّ أَتِي دَوْسَ وَإِيتِي بِهِمْ. This is the dua of the Prophet against it, because he faced the Qibla, raised up his hands, the people said, khalas, he's people have been a gunner, like the Ad Thamud. But the Prophet asked for their guidance, and they have been guided. Now, we do have as well, we talk about the story of the wrestling with Rukana. And then, by the way, this story of Tufayl bin Amr Dausi, it is not to be after what? Isra wal Mi'raj. Okay? This is more likely before. Dhimad Azdi, we have talked about the story, remember? Dhimad Azdi is the one, Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu. No? We talked about him, yes. Jazakallah. I forgot. What about wrestling with Rukana? No? Alright. Okay, let's just talk about Dhimad ibn Azdi, is it? Go on.
Dhimad Azdi,
In Azd Shalu'a, he's from Yemen.
a skilled exorcist, he hailed from...
Exorcist. I mean, he does what? Healing by incantation. Any person possessed, any person who's got sorcery, any person who's got anything wrong, he would read his incantation upon. Now,
He hailed from the Azd.
Raqi in Arabic. Okay, now.
He hailed from the Azd Shanwa tribe of Yemen.
Azd Shalu'a. Now.
When he came to Makkah, he heard a rumor that Muhammad ﷺ was insane. He then approached.
Insane is not right. Possessed. Now.
He then approached the Prophet ﷺ and offered to cure him. The Prophet ﷺ responded by saying, "All praise be to Allah, we glorify Him and seek
Which
His
is
help."
khutbat al-hajj. Inna alhamdulillah nahmadu. So he came to him, he said, "Verily, I've heard that you've got some possession. And I'm very well, skillful in my field. If I just read upon you. So what do you say? What is that thing that you've got something wrong with you?" So the Prophet said, "Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu." Imagine, first he said, "Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu." And the words he said, listening. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا until he finished خطبة الحاجة. And then he said, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. And that man is baffled. Again? Again? He did it 3 times on him. And then he said, go on.
Should I read the translation?
Read the translation.
Prophet ﷺ responded by saying, "All praise be to Allah, we glorify Him and seek His help. He whom Allah has guided cannot be misled, and he whom Allah has led astray cannot be guided. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His servant and messenger." Dhimad was so impressed with the Prophet ﷺ's speech.
It is a figure LS61.
Dhimad was so impressed with the Prophet ﷺ's speech that he repeated it thrice and said, "I have heard the speeches of sorcerers, soothsayers and poets, but never before have I heard anything like this." He then asked the Prophet ﷺ,
No, there's something missing in English. Verily they have reached the depth of the ocean. The depth of the ocean. It's not there, is it?
I've heard, no.
No, you have to add that. So after he said, "I've heard all of these words of the soothsayers and all these sorcerers and all of these poets, never heard words like this. For verily they have reached the depth of the ocean." That means they've reached the depth of his heart. They have reached the depth of the ocean. لَقَدْ بَلَغْنَا نَامُوسَ الْبَحْرِ أو قاموس الْبَحْرِ أو نَاعُوسَ الْبَحْرِ. So he said to him, "Stretch your arm, stretch your hand, let me give you the pledge onto Islam," and he gave him the pledge. Yes?
He then asked the Prophet ﷺ to extend his hand so that he could pledge his allegiance to him.
And he gave him the pledge. So this is Dhimad. I think we've talked about this story. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, alhamdulillah. But this, as I said, it is not after the ascension. It is before the ascension, the Isra wal Mi'raj. So these stories are before the Isra wal Mi'raj that took place. Now, Rukana is also, we believe it is before the Isra wal Mi'raj. And the story of Rukana is as follows. Is that this person, he's known to be a wrestler. Nobody can beat him. And the Prophet ﷺ had managed to beat him. The story is as follows, that he is Yazid ibn Rukana. He fought with the Prophet ﷺ, and he fought him 3 times. Every time he fights him, there was a like at a stake. That means what you're going to lose and you're going to win. It's like betting against each other. So it was against 100 sheep. And this is why Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he says that if two people were doing something for the sake of, like wrestling, for the sake of getting strength on Sharia, for the sake of, for example, horse racing, there's no harm to have a bet. Not from the people who are betting from the outside. This is haram. But these people are against one another. So I bet you, if I'm, wrestling, this is for the sake of strengthening the jihad, or for the sake of, let's say, I'm going to race you on the horse. If you lose, you give me 5 camels. If I lose, I give you 5 camels. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ, he had, challenged him on 100 of sheep. So 3 times he lost how many? 300. It's a lot of money. 300 sheep. And then he said, Muhammad, Wallahi, nobody had put my back on the earth except for you. That means nobody had put my back on that means nobody was on top of me. Nobody had before managed to put my back on the earth, on the ground, anybody before you, anybody except for you. And no one has to be more hatred or more of hated person towards my heart more than you. And I used to hate you the most. And now I testify that there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone, and you are the Prophet of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he left him. I've left him on the floor while he was on top of him. And then he gave him a sheep. He gave him a sheep. There's 300 sheep. And he gave him a sheep. So this is a man who embraced Islam because he knows now the power is not from a man like the Prophet ﷺ. It must be from divine. Because a person like him, Prophet doesn't look muscled. Okay, so to beat him, he's a professional wrestler. And he's not a professional wrestler, the Prophet. So it must be that the power of Allah, the power of the divine. That's why he believes straight away in him. It can't be normal power. Nobody, had he said, had put my back on the ground, anybody before you, except for you. Now, this is as well a story which we don't know whether it was, but most likely it's before Isra wal Mi'raj. And I'm saying this because of Rahiq al-Makhtub, he mentions this. Now we're coming to Islam in Medina.
6 pilgrims from Yathrib. These 6 men from the Khazraj tribe of Yathrib were Asad bin Zurara,
Asad bin Zurara, Auf bin Harith bin Rifa'a, Rafi' bin Malik bin Ajlan, Qutb bin Amir bin Hadida, and Uqba bin Amir bin Nabi, or Jabir bin Abdullah ibn Riyad. Now,
they had come along with other pilgrims from Yathrib to Makkah in the 11th year of the Prophet ﷺ's mission. Yathrib was also home to some Jewish tribes, and occasionally disputes would flare up between the Arabs and Jews. The Jewish minority would intimidate the Arabs by saying that soon a prophet would be sent to lead the Jews in battle. The Arabs, they claimed, would be slaughtered like the people of Ad and Imran.
No, Iran.
Sorry, Iran.
Is it Iran? Is there Imran?
Iran.
Oh, Imran's on the doctor.
No, sorry. These 6 pilgrims were sitting together in Mina, just outside Makkah, one night when the Prophet ﷺ passed by. He approached them and asked, "Who are you?" "We belong to the Khazraj," they answered. "Allies of the Jews," the Prophet ﷺ commented. They replied in affirmative. "Let us sit together and talk," the Prophet ﷺ suggested. He spoke to them about Islam, recited some verses of the Quran, and invited them to believe in Allah, the One, the Exalted. The men sitting with the Prophet ﷺ recognized who he was. "This is the same Prophet the Jews constantly threaten us with. Let us pledge allegiance to him before they do." All 6 men accepted Islam. "We left our people in such a plight," they said. "If Allah unites us through you, you would be honored more than anyone else among us." The 6 new Muslims promised that they would invite their people to Islam upon returning to Yathrib, and that they would meet the Prophet ﷺ again during the next pilgrimage.
Right. So this is the true spark that actually triggered the Islam spread in the Medina. Those 6 from the Khazraj who had met the Prophet ﷺ. And now we're not really sure 100% of the names, are they the ones here, but we're sure, for example, some of them, like Asad bin Zurara and Auf bin Harith. And they have met the Prophet of Allah, and their heart is open. As soon as they heard the Prophet ﷺ calling to Islam and calling to the Haqq, they straight away, they did not have any hesitation to embrace Islam. This is what Allah had prepared for them, to embrace Islam. And of course, what happened as well, because of the killing that took place in the days of Mu'adh, which is the great battle between Aus and Khazraj, lots of their chiefs and lots of their leaders had died, and that as well helped for the sake of them to embrace Islam. Why? When lots of leaders die, there will be not a lot of challenge towards leadership. So they were now more open to receive information from others regarding the divine. So as soon as they heard the Prophet ﷺ, they embraced Islam, because they're not really scared of any leadership. The leadership, the leaders have died, and those people are not looking for leadership. So that is why they were embracing Islam. Also, helped them that they are the neighbors of the Jews. And the Jews are people of the book. So even they were idolaters, but they were neighbors of people who have scripture. And because of the scripture, they used to know a lot of things regarding the revelation, prophets, Jannah, paradise, and hellfire, and destiny. So this is why I'm just saying that they were prepared for embracing. All of those had helped for them to embrace Islam. This is all of it just before the first pledge of Aqabah. Aqabah is a place which is next to Mina, that is in Mina, and as we call the first place that took place, the first pledge, but this is, I could say it, a mini pledge. It's not a pledge, it's a mini. It's a calling for the sake of Allah. So they embrace Islam, and the Prophet ﷺ had said to them the Quran, and they went back to the Medina, and they mentioned the Prophet ﷺ to the people. They called them to Islam, and the name of the Prophet of Allah has really spread into the houses of Medina. Not a single house that except that Islam had entered it, and the name of the Prophet ﷺ had been mentioned. So the following now Hajj year came, and 12 men, okay, from those 12 there are 6 which are the same ones who are met the Prophet ﷺ last year. So 6 plus what? Another 6. 12 who are representative from the Aus and Khazraj. Before they were all of them from the Khazraj. Now they've got the Aus. So the Aus were ready. As soon as the Khazraj told them about this, they wanted to unite. They don't want any war. Straight away they came with them. So they decided to meet the Prophet ﷺ, and the Messenger of Allah met them in Al-Aqabah, which is in Mina, as I said, and he had made the first pledge, which we're going to be listening to it, inshallah. This is from Eyas bin Mu'adh. He said, "Now, Eyas bin Mu'adh and the Ansar as well." Now,
the first pledge of Aqabah. The next year, 5 of the 6 men from Yathrib.
6 better. It's 5 here, but it's correct. What is 6? All the 6 were there. They were here. That's why I'm just saying those names. We're not sure that exactly. Go ahead.
The next year, the 6 men from Yathrib returned to meet the Prophet ﷺ during Hajj. They brought with them 5 converts
from 6 converts. Not some converts, 6 what? Reverts. Converts, you convert something to something which is new. This is returning them back to their original reverts. Now,
they brought with them 6 reverts from their own tribe and 2 from tribe of Aus. The names of the 5 reverts of the Khazraj tribe were Mu'adh bin Harith, Mu'adh bin Afra,
Dhakwan bin Abdul Qais, Aqabah bin Samit, Yazid bin Tha'lab, Abbas bin Ubadah bin Wadlah. As for the 2 from the Aus, they are Abu al-Haytham bin Tihan, Uwaym bin Sa'idah. Now,
again, they met the Prophet ﷺ in Mina, where he taught them more about Islam and asked them to take an oath of allegiance. This was known as the first pledge of Aqabah. Specifically, it was a pact between the men and Allah that they would not associate any partners with Allah.
He said to them, not to associate anything with Allah.
Commit theft.
No, not to commit any theft.
Fornicate.
Not to fornicate.
Kill their children.
It's always not to kill children, not to kill their children. Because he said that kill their children is an oath.
Not associated, and then commit theft, obviously.
So commit, because when you're breaking it down, it sounds like kill your children. So not to commit, so what? theft and fornication and also killing the children and also
defaming others, nor disobey the Prophet ﷺ when he instructed them to do good.
Defamed others and not to disobey the Prophet and he enjoyed to do good. Now,
whoever fulfilled their pledge would receive his reward from Allah, and whoever violated any part of it and was proven guilty would be punished in this world as an atonement. If, however, someone broke the pledge and Allah hid his sin from people,
broke the pledge of shirk billah? No. It's anything but the shirk. That means not broke the pledge. In Arabic, man asaba min dhalika shay. He who had done one of these acts, which is what? Committing theft, fornication, defaming a person, killing one person. Then, if however, someone broke the pledge and Allah hid his sin from people, hid his sins. I mean, nobody knows about it. Or no, somebody knew about it, but between him and Allah. Go on.
The person would be dealt with by Allah, who would either forgive or punish him.
So he's not a kafir. So the person who does fornicate or all that, he's not a kafir. So it might be Allah will forgive him from the first instant. Go ahead, you forgive him. And you have no business to say, oh Allah, this is not justice. No business to say that. You can't question Allah if you had for pardon. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had put His mercy before His anger. That's it. So no business for you to say, well, it's not justice. He should be punished because he's been... And that is why when a person from the two Bani Israel, one person who is a righteous, another person who is what? Evildoer. He said, by Allah, Allah will not forgive for you. Because he told him off about the sins and why should you do sins. Allah will not forgive for you. So Allah, what did He say? Man alladhi yata'alla alayh. Who's making himself a God beside me? For verily, I have forgiven him and I put you in the hellfire. Because he's making himself what? A God. You can't make yourself as a God. Right? A person who should testify there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone, you have no right whatsoever to put him in the hellfire. You have no right, because Allah Azza wa Jalla is His business. Okay.
Islam spreads in Yathrib. When the men who took the pledge at Aqabah finished performing Hajj, the Prophet ﷺ sent Mus'ab bin Umair radiallahu anhu along with them to teach them the Quran. In Yathrib, Mus'ab radiallahu anhu stayed with Abu Usama Asad bin Zurara. The two directed their efforts towards teaching non-Muslims about Islam. One day, as Umair and Abu Usama radiallahu anhuma sat in an orchard, Suhaib bin Mu'adh, the chief of the Aus tribe, spotted them. He said to his cousin Usayd bin Hudayr, go and scold those two who have come to deceive our weak. Weapon in hand, Usayd approached the two Muslims. Asad saw him and warned Mus'ab. Here comes as chief.
Yes. Chief of the Aus now.
Why are you there? Usayd thundered, do you intend to deceive our weak? Keep away if you value your life. Mus'ab was not intimidated. Why don't you sit and listen? If you like what we say, accept it. If you dislike it, don't. That sounds fair, said Usayd cautiously. He put away his weapon and sat down. Mus'ab radiallahu anhu explained the basic principles of Islam and then recited some verses of the Quran. Usayd found himself agreeing with everything Mus'ab said, so he embraced Islam. He then returned to Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, who now had to be convinced. I talked to them, Usayd said to Sa'ad carefully, and found nothing objectionable in what they say. Still, I forbade them to talk to anyone else. By the way, I managed to find out that Banu Haritha was planning to kill Asad bin Zurara because he is your cousin. They want to break the covenant. Usayd.
So here we find. Continue the story.
Okay. Usayd's ploy worked. Sa'ad became angry and made his way to Mus'ab and Asad. Mus'ab told him the same thing he had told Usayd, and Sa'ad agreed to listen. When Mus'ab finished explaining the principles of Islam, Sa'ad too became Muslim. His love for the Prophet ﷺ and his faith made him one of the more distinguished companions of the Prophet ﷺ. His new faith surging in his heart, Sa'ad returned to his people and said, O Banu Abd Ashhal,
Ashhal is a well-known tribe of the Aus now.
What do you know about me as a man among you? They answered in one voice, You are our chief and the wisest man among us. Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said, Well, I will not talk to the families of those who do not believe in Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a result of this, every man and women in the tribe became Muslim except for Usayram, who became Muslim during the Battle of Uhud.
Usayram ibn Abd al-Ashhal is a person who is the only one who had embraced Islam without praying a prayer, single prayer. Even when he was found dead, about to die in the Battle of Uhud, they thought he was what? He was fighting with the kuffar, not fighting with them. So what happened? He said, Verily, I believe in Allah. He's the only man, he's the only person left from the people of Ansar who did not embrace Islam. And he's about to die, so he said, Verily, I believe in Allah and His Messenger. And then he died. And he had not prayed a single prayer. So he just heard the call for the jihad and he left. Okay, so any person who says, who's the person who had died on Islam without praying a prayer? It's Usayb ibn Abd al-Ashhal. He's the only one who did not embrace Islam. He did not embrace Islam in the beginning. Yes, now.
He was martyred in the battle before he had even performed one prostration as a Muslim. Mus'ab bin Umair radiallahu anhu returned to Makkah before the next Hajj. His account of how Allah had guided the people of Yathrib to Islam delighted the Prophet ﷺ immensely.
Right, so Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anhu, we find him that he's been sent by the Prophet ﷺ because he's what? He is a person who is a reciter. Not only just to recite for them the Quran, to teach them the religion. So when you want somebody to someone, to a tribe or to a land to teach the people, you send them someone who's what? A scholar. You don't really send someone who's going to be learning. And just because some of the partisans or Jama'at, they send people who are ignorant to go and teach people what? Ignorance. So you have to be a learned person in order to call for the sake of Allah. So he had done his job very well with number 1, knowledge, number 2, good preaching, and number 3, patience, and this is very important. So that's how Islam spread into the Medina on the hands of most of it. And that is why in the following year, Mus'ab ibn Umair came to Mecca, giving the glad tidings to the Prophet ﷺ that Islam is spread and is awaiting him. So it is waiting for you to come. So when Islam had spread into the Medina and the Muslims, the Muhajirun, had really the moment trusted their brothers from the Ansar, the Prophet ﷺ, he was facing this persecution all the time from the people of Quraysh until the second pledge that took place. We're going to be talking about it. The second pledge is after a year, as I said, and the story that took place between Usayd ibn Hudayr and the Mus'ab. Usayd ibn Hudayr is one of the people who embraced Islam, and as well, Usayd ibn Hudayr could put him as well with the Ahnaf. Usayd ibn Hudayr could put him with the Ahnaf. He's from the Ansar. He was not really keen to embrace anything because he wasn't really accepting worshipping idols. And that is why, as soon as he heard Mus'ab ibn Umair, he's the first person to embrace Islam. And he made an act, him regarding his cousins, until he got one of those people who never ever thought they would embrace Islam. He hates Islam. If you get that person to embrace Islam, all his followers will embrace Islam. So they made this sort of act that somebody's saying something wrong about your cousin and come, and so the tribal things came into him, and then as soon as he came, he listened to the words of Mus'ab because he doesn't want to listen to the words of Mus'ab. They've been warned against him, against Mus'ab. So when he listened to the Mus'ab from the Quran, straight away his heart is open. See, it's only just to want to listen with your heart, and then you'll know this is the haqq. As one of the people who embraced Islam, he said, how did you embrace Islam? He said, I read the Quran with an open eye, and I knew it was the haqq. One person that fascinated me, he said he was blind since he was a kid. And when he goes to school, people say, you're blind, you're blind. So he went back, and his mother is not Muslim. He said to her, children are bullying me. I'm blind, I'm blind. She said, no, you're not blind, but you can't see. And that stuck to his mind. You're not blind, but you can't see. When he has the first approach of a person to say to him Islam, he listened to the words of the Quran. When he's heard the verse, وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبِ, that is, the blindness is what? In the heart. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ, not the eyes get blind. He said, this is what I've heard from my mother. That this is not the eyes get blind, it's actually the heart, which is true. A person could be blind while he's got what? 5 eyes, and still blind, can't see. So as soon as he said, this is what I've heard, this is correct. I'm not blind, but I can't see. And he embraced Islam, and he's Quran now, he's like an Arab. When he recites Quran, I didn't know there was an. I said, you sure you're not born in a Muslim country? Because I've heard his recitation, MashaAllah, so beautiful. Abu Hafsa, his name. So when he looks, doesn't look. He's got, he could see. And of course, he learned it through the Braille language. He's memorized almost all of the Quran, almost, with the recitation. So, as I said, blind, it could be with 2 eyes. You're not a blind if you haven't got the eyes. If you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took you to beloved one, which is the eyes, and you've been patient, then paradise is your destiny. Now, before the second pledge, as I said, this had happened. Suhaib bin Amr, we have a story for him. If you remember, we talked about regarding recitation of the Quran. He used to recite the Quran a lot. And one day he was reciting during the night, and he had his horse was tied up next to his house, and he was outside. There's a haystack as well, pile, and his child, his son, is called Yahya, and he was reciting the Quran. I was reciting, the horse started going back and forward. So he stopped, and this horse stopped. Then he started reciting again, the horse going back and forward. Third time he had to stop completely because the horse almost stepped on top of his son, Yahya, the child baby. And he went and then he looked up in the heavens, and he saw like a cloud so close to him, and in it there's lights. As soon as he looked, the cloud started going away from him. So he saw it so close and got lights in it. As soon as he looked, the clouds disappeared. He went to the Prophet and he told him, Messenger of Allah, I was reciting that night, and and the horse went back and forward. So I stopped. He said, recite, Ibn Hudayr. Prophet said, you should continue reciting. I said, I continued, Messenger of Allah. But the horse went back and forward. Then I stopped. He said, recite. He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. I recited the 3rd time. But the horse went back and forward. And I stopped. He said, recite. I said, no, Messenger of Allah. I was scared of my son. And then I looked, Messenger of Allah, there was a cloud on top of me. There was some lights in it, and then disappeared. He said, verily, those are the angels. They came to listen to your recitation. And if you kept reciting, those angels would have been seen by the people on the roads. Because of the recitation of Suhaib, radiallahu anhu. And as I said, Suhaib is sincere. And when you recite Quran, the angels come and listen. There's an angel takes the word from your mouth, Quran to him. And that is why we are recommended to always use a siwak. Prophet told some of the companions, he came, why I see you talk? Why you have seen that some of you are coming with a bad smell? Okay? So you come to the prayer to recite Quran, what? Clean your mouth. There's an angel taking your words. And I'm saying this unfortunately. One day I prayed in the Fajr prayer, and I was not the imam, and I was reciting beside somebody. I almost left the prayer. I had to put my jacket like this, so I can't really smell anything. I don't know which is coming from which side it is. But the breath of a person, and he kills everybody beside him. So brother, please, if you have something wrong with your gums, go and treat them. It's very easy to treat these things. You've got lots of things. You've got mouth holes, you've got everything. It could be the gums. So make sure that you smell nice. It's very important. If you see the people doing like this from you, know there's something wrong. You talk to them. So make sure that you smell nice. You come out with nice. Bleeding gum will, I'm saying this because it just happened to me recently in the Fajr prayer. It really annoys people because I know that all the time Imam have got nothing to do with them. Behind me, whatever they have got with their mouths, it doesn't really reach me. And I'm really sympathizing with those people who are in the prayer. So if you have a bad mouth, please make sure your mouth smells nice. Now, what time is the Isha?
9:30.
33 is the other.
33 is the other. Right, okay. Okay, second pledge leaders. Inshallah. Second pledge leaders. All right, you have any questions? I'm going to stop you before the adhan, inshallah. So, what time is the prayer? 9:45? Good. Now, we'll start with the questions to do with the seerah. If you have no questions with the seerah, then it's open for you, inshallah. Now,
So, sorry.
go ahead.
Could you kindly elaborate on those pledges? One of them, the last one being mentioned, they're not to disobey the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Not to?
Disobey the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And apart from shirk, if somebody does one of these things, then Allah hate it. So disobeying Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, doesn't it fall under some elements of kufr and disbelief?
Disobeying the Prophet ﷺ is like disobeying Allah. So when you say that don't fornicate and you fornicated, you disobeyed Allah. It's not disbelief.
Okay.
No. Disobedience, it depends which the type of disobedience. If you have disobeyed Allah in worshipping other than Allah, that's kufr akbar. But anything that the person does in terms of not fulfilling what he's been commanded to, don't drink any drink, is disobeying Allah. And disobeying his Prophet, of course. And it's not to be a kufr that will take you outside the... It's not kufr in itself, not as well to say that this will take you outside the fold of Islam. But if you have said that God made it halal to drink alcohol, that's kufr. Just like that person, Allah will not forgive you. He's becoming what? He's a God himself. No. Fadl.
What if the person commits the act consistently? Then he is.
What about if that person had acted consistently? So what about that person who was killing consistently? This is the worst of crimes, you could say, below the shirk. So below the shirk is the killing. And it's killing. Whether it's killing believers or non-believers, killing. So he killed 99 people. And he just, I want to repent. And then he goes to a person who is just a mere worship. I killed 99, I want to repent. You killed that many, you want to repent? No repentance. So he kills them again. Amazing. He kills them again because he was enraged. He's out of rage. Makes him 100. So, but he still wants to repent. So he said, they was said to a person who was knowledgeable, not just a worshiper. You killed 100, well, nobody's holding you to repenting or repent. But you are in a land will remind you of killing and bad evil. Go away from this land to such and such land, which is good, righteous people there. Migration. So he sent for the migration. He hasn't really done anything sort of good deed except for his steps towards that land, or steps, of course, that's the scholar. So his intention was correct, and he went. And he hasn't reached yet that land. We don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to go to the righteous land, and maybe those who are killing them. True or not? We don't know. But his intention, plus his steps, and he did not even die closer to that land which he's going to go to. He's closer to the land which he left. And that's why, rightly so, the angels of the paradise and the angels of the hellfire, they were in dispute. No, he belongs to us, he's a killer. 100 people. No, he repented to Allah. So then, no, repentance, this is the argument coming between, a quarrel between what? Two types of angels. No, he's from us. No, he's from us. And they rightly so. Why? Because that man killed 100 people and he's done nothing good except his intention and his steps towards that land. And he's not yet even had passed the halfway marker to the other land. And that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to honor man, he sent an angel in the form of a man to arbitrate between what? Angels. To show that the rank of the mankind, Adam alayhi salam's rank is above the angels. And that is why he commanded all the angels to prostrate to Adam. Because he created him with his own hands. So when that person, the angel came in a form of human being, he said, measure between the lands. And even if they measure between the lands, he will be in the hellfire. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had to intervene now. When they measured, he made his position of death is to be close to the land that he wanted to go to. So when they measured, he was close to that land, but actually he was closer to the land that he left. This is justice. So the angels said, the ones of the hellfire, okay, it's yours from the paradise. How many people he killed? So he's consistent of killing. Nobody can be as consistent as him. You know, mashallah, killer, assassin. So if a person fornicated and fornicated and fornicated, as long as he doesn't say fornication is haram, we can't say he's a kafir. Sorry, fornication is halal, we can't say he's a kafir. Once he makes it something haram lawful, or makes something lawful haram, and he believes in that, then he's a kafir even if he did not do it. If he just said fornication is halal, he never fornicated, he's a kafir. Just to make that statement, and he believes in it, he is kafir. That's what he said. If any person, he said, ruling by all the rules of Allah is halal, he's a kafir even if he did not rule in any rule. He's a kafir. Even if he's not a ruler himself, he's a kafir. So this is to do with the aqidah of what is the person has got. So the person who's kafir, sharah Allahu sadrahu lil kufr. Allah had made his chest open for the kufr. He is relaxed to the kufr. He is happy. Yatma'innu lil kufr. He's a kafir. No, jazakallah. Questions? Okay. We're gonna give you because 33 is in about 5 minutes. I would like to shoot, not someone, to leave before that. Okay? Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.